All right, just press record. Just took a big gulp of water, and there is officially no going back, because once you take that sip, guys, that is it. We are in episode 5. We are officially in, and there's no going back. Welcome, world. How are you? It is holiday season, and as you all know, holiday season doesn't officially kick off until we complete and we release this last episode of the podcast, because I like to think that you guys have been patiently waiting all day. Like you have your week off now or next week, and you're just wondering, when is it dropping? When's the next podcast dropping? And I know that all 27 million of my subscribers are totally anticipating that. So, guys, I had to do it for you. I had to take the time out of my busy schedule to make this time for you guys. So, happy holidays, guys. Welcome to possibly, more than likely, the last podcast before Christmas. But I'm off next week, and I'm thinking of, you know what? I'm going to put one out next week. I'm going to catch up on a lot of stuff next week, actually. So I got a lot of big projects going on work-wise. That's going all the way till Friday. And once I'm done that, I'm going to just a mix of relax, catch up on Tito stuff, watch a bunch of movies, shows, spend time with family. There's so much. And it's so much that I want to get done that it's not even going to be me really relaxing. I'm still going to schedule it, I think. At least loosely schedule it. You want to think like a day for this, a day for that. Maybe even like several hour blocks. And some people are just like, what kind of relaxing do you do? That's not relax. That's not relax. But you know what? Organized relaxedness is still relaxedness. And relaxedness is indeed a word. You do not look it up. Just take my word for it. But guys, there's so much ground to cover in this episode. Outside of just Christmas, there was a big thing that happened this past weekend. Pretty big. And probably the most exciting thing to happen in a while. Which is, of course, the closures before the closures in Ontario, okay? The closures because of the Omicron variant, and we have a 10 people capacity now for Christmas, so that's fun, that's exciting. Yay, can we get a round of applause? Let me click my little applause button here. Yeah, let me just insert some applause right there. Yeah, that'll work. But, yeah. So we had a big family gathering planned, but, that's not really happening anymore. So lots to look forward to, guys. Lots to look forward to. Oh, and also a small movie came out that probably no one saw. A little indie film you might have maybe went under your radar or something. Some Spider-Man No Way Home sort of stuff. You hear about this? Yeah, some small movie. I kind of want to give it some of its much-needed exposure because I'm sure if I'm not mentioning it, chances are you guys aren't going to hear about it. So let me dive in and really help out this indie movie because I have quite a bit to say about this. But yeah, in all seriousness, guys, this was a big event. Seeing this movie last week, I saw it actually I think it was Thursday night and Friday night. I'm that type that would go to the movies opening weekend and this reminded me of pre-pandemic era levels of hype. Like everyone's saying like it's like Endgame, and it kind of was in a weird way. And okay, from here I'm gonna say that for those of you that didn't see it, I'm gonna put a little marker, maybe a little something here. Skip to read the description. Actually, look at the description. I'm gonna have it in the description of whatever platform this is on, and I'll mark the spoiler warning. So spoiler warning from now. I'm not gonna spoil. Or wait, I'll talk non-spoilers and then I'll say the spoiler warning. So you're safe. You're safe right now. Okay. I just want to say that I'm not gonna spoil it. Okay. And if I let it slip, I'll edit it out. But I don't know why I would edit this. These are just personal notes for myself. I just like keep these voice memos on my computer, and record them and put them on a green screen for some form of presentation for my own reference. I don't know why I don't release this once again for those of you that do or don't know. And by those of you, I mean myself, because I'm the only person that listens to this. This is something I've mentioned recurringly on my personal podcast before, but I don't know why I'm still going in depth about that. Anyways, about the movie. It's something. It's definitely something. And yeah, that's pretty much what I'll say. And that's if you're gonna have a tagline, one of those Rotten Tomatoes reviews on the TV spots that they add, the big like font, like on the trailer or whatever. It's something, all right. You know, like that's the extent that we should reveal. Because honestly, I'm the type that I hate spoilers, and I there's things in the trailer that I think still, like, I wish I didn't know. And I'll get into that when I'm talking spoilers, but honestly, I love this movie. I love this movie so much. You're going to hear that a lot. I'm sure I'm the first person to ever say it, because I'm pretty sure no one's talked about this movie yet on the internet. I think I'm the first person on earth to talk about this movie on the internet. So this is a historic moment, guys. Everyone listening to this right now, you guys are you guys are listening to history right now. But it's like, okay, let's talk about it from the sense of what we knew from the last movie. So I'm guessing those of you who've seen the movie have seen the movie and seen the past movies and all that, right? So, leading off what happened in the last one, spoiler alert, this is a spoiler alert for the last movie, not spoiler alert for this movie, but stuff you should know if you've seen the last one, is that, Peter Parker's identity was revealed. And I don't feel upset, not feel upset, but I feel safe saying that, because, that's in the trailers, like I figure if it's in the trailer, it's fair game. But, like, and I feel like everyone on the internet, they just see everything at this point. I feel like I'm not going to say much that hasn't already been said. But you got that whole Mysterio thing going, and this kind of like builds off that, and like the kind of fallout of the last movie. That's the right term. But it's about Peter trying to deal with having himself in the public eye now, because that's a big thing about Spider-Man is anonymity, so people don't know about him, right? So that was a big thing, and I think that was done really well. Honestly, I loved the general plot of this movie, like, and the main threads, like even like the character development between Tom, Zendaya, and what is it, Ned, the guy Jacob Batalon, I think. He's Filipino, I think. Yeah, shout out that guy, the guy that plays Ned. Yeah, like they were all really good. I think honestly, all the main casts are the best that they've ever been in the franchise so far. And yeah, the story's done really well. The one thing that I think that Marvel is good at, for the most part, is knowing how to juggle so many big elements in a movie, but knowing how to prioritize what's important. That's one thing I found. Like, especially, I think since Avengers 1, Civil War did that too. Because, like, the thing with Civil War, I think structure-wise, it reminds me a bit of this movie, in the sense that there's so many of these big elements that, all the cameos and big stuff and things like that. But it's still at its core about, in Civil War, it's about Captain America. Like, it's technically a solo movie. And this one, you still know that it's about Peter Parker, like Tom Holland's Peter Parker. And honestly, like, I think in that sense, it does that very well. And this is something you'll hear too. This is the most Spider-Man movie that you'll probably see so far in this franchise, because he does a lot of, I think he goes through so much growth that puts him in a place that I would have wanted him to be when we first met him in, like, Civil War and stuff. Because, like, Peter's always he's always been known as, like, that underdog. He doesn't have the most resources, but, he finds a way. And, like, I think a big thing, which was a criticism about the new ones, is that, he's always in the shadow of Iron Man and all that, and like, the Iron, all the memes like the Iron Boy Jr. and stuff like that, which I honestly, I didn't like. I felt that a bit, but and that was probably I wasn't mad at it because I liked the dynamic between him and Tony, but I like assuming that this is like the real way that they're trying to really extend his arc. It's almost like all the movies until now, like of Spider-Man being in the MCU, or like a long origin story. And yeah, I gotta be careful with what I say here because I'm not trying to give nothing away for you guys. But yeah, I'll just say that it's the story's really good, and I think this is fair game to say about the villains in the movie. We know those from the trailers, so I'd say I'm gonna say, okay, skip to, if you don't want to hear any spoilers at this point, skip to whatever. I'll put a marker somewhere. Just look in the description of when to skip, like past when I'm done talking about spoilers. I'll figure it out at some point. But yeah, the villains were really, really good for like the amount of screen time that they gave to certain villains. So for example, Jamie Foxx was really good as Electro. He was like kind of like the kind of secondary villain that was like, he actually had a good amount to do. Like, I'd say like more about as much as I would have wanted him to be in the movie. Like Alfred Molina, of course, Doc Ock, classic. And it's like, it was trippy just like seeing him on screen, like, geez, like it brought me back. Like I was 10 years old, like watching that. And not to mention Willem Dafoe too as Green Goblin. Literally, that I'd be like 8 years old or something. Whatever 2002 is for me. I think I'd be like 8 years old at that time. And it was trippy. It was such a weird experience to see like these characters. Like, I don't think you people understand. I think everyone understands. But like, I'm going to give you my perspective of like this whole progression of like the Marvel superhero thing. You guys have to remember, before Iron Man, the Spider-Man franchise and X-Men franchise and stuff were like the big players in the Marvel movie realm, right? Like Spider-Man was always big, X-Men was always big. People didn't really care about Avengers like that much, like before. And don't even lie to me. No one before 2008 can tell me that they cared about Iron Man before that. I don't remember anyone talking about Iron Man unless you were like a hardcore comic fan. Anyone that was probably born after 2000, I'm not even trying to generalize, but I think like if you're born after 2000, meaning that like Iron Man would have come out when you were like 8 years old or something, then you probably don't as much like really remember when like he wasn't that big and like the MCU wasn't a thing. And I love the MCU. I'm just saying that the Tobey franchise, the Sam Raimi franchise was like huge, and to see like characters from then come here is just like such a weird and crazy thing that like at this point in time and just how long it's been in like the legacy of like this whole live action movie endeavor, it was completely surreal. Like I couldn't imagine what I was seeing on screen. And I honestly think Willem Dafoe was better in this movie than he was in the first movie, in the original movie. At least on par, at the very least same level, but I would argue possibly better. But like, if anything, he lives up. Like at the bottom line, like you're gonna be so satisfied. And honestly, it's so smart the way that they go into it with like these characters and like just the context that they're in it. You know what? Should I just go into spoilers at this point? I kind of just want to like not have to worry what I have to say. So I'm gonna say it from now. I said it already like 5 times, but I hope you guys can at least appreciate that. Like, I like to give a little bit of a warning when I speak about stuff because like I don't want to ruin anything for anyone. But I feel like the whole world has seen this movie at this point that I feel like it'll be fine. So here we go. We're going all out, guys. Okay. And I'm not going to go into the full-on thing yet, but for those of you that, if you know, you know. But Willem Dafoe was like he's honestly such a good actor, like as it is, like he's such a good character actor, and he has such an interesting voice and face. He has like that really distinct presence, and he literally stole every bit that he was on screen, in my opinion, in this, and Alfred Molina too. And I feel like it wasn't like that far off for people to, have a little bit of theories about what was going to happen. And like there's a few crazy things that happened, but like you might have been able to guess. And there was a bit where Peter was like, okay, before, like let's bring it back a bit. There's that bit where Peter's trying to figure out what he could do legally about his situation, because now he's in the public eye and all that. And there's a point where he has a chat with his lawyer, and his lawyer sits down, and it's, oh my god, it's this totally random blind guy with glasses and a walking stick. I actually wonder if there are people that genuinely didn't know about, I feel like there weren't, but like that didn't know about Daredevil and Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock. That was like crazy. Like the thing is, the internet, like I see so much stuff online that like I hate, even if it's not confirmed. I don't even like to think about certain things. I gotta honestly just stay off these sites that I'm on, because I'm always like, I always look at like movie related news on websites like comicbookmovie.com and stuff like that. And I think just like my feed ends up like seeing all these like random spoilers. So like months ago, like in the last year, I saw all sorts of stuff about like the theories that Toby and Andrew Garfield are in the movie. And, I didn't, like, I wanted to believe that it pretty much was going to happen, because like if you're not going to get Jamie Foxx and Alfred Molina and Willem Dafoe and Thomas Hayden Church to come back, Thomas Hayden Church being Sandman, like you're not going to get those actors to come back and not have their Spider-Man come back, But it was just, I really appreciate that they kept that surprise going on for the entirety of the marketing of this movie. And because like like you don't want to have everything spoiled. The thing that I think some people are like, I don't know if it's something about the internet now and fans, that it's like we're almost like so entitled. Like we want to know everything, or like people want to know everything, but they also don't. Like it's like, I think people just want to like just get their fix, It's like any bit of news, I want to grab at straws and just see, give us anything. But one thing I get and don't get that mentality of like wanting to see everything, because it's like, don't you want that experience of being in a theater and seeing, like, imagine if you didn't go on the internet for the past like year or two knowing about this movie and the production details, and like, because everyone assumed, again, like these people are going to be in it. I wonder how much crazier it would have been if there was no trailers that showed any of the villains in this movie. Like that would be crazy. And because like, like if there's like, the more surprises the better. Like I feel like I would have actually fainted if I just watched that movie without having seen any promotional material. And I think that's a big example. Like, I want to know now if there's people that genuinely watch this movie without seeing anything that are fans. Like, I feel like there's got to be at least a handful of people out there that have that kind of strength or just that kind of maneuverability to bob and weave through the internet and not see anything by chance. But, those are far and in between. Not many people have that luxury of complete ignorance being bliss. But it's true, ignorance is bliss. I really wish I didn't know about anything, because I feel like, no, and this isn't even a complaint, because I love the movie. I honestly love the movie. And I didn't even get into like the main bits yet, but I'm just saying, like, okay, I'm going to get into another thing about the whole possible spoiler thing in marketing in a bit, but let's just start off with that whole scene in the condo was like a crazy fight scene. Like the reveal that, of course, Norman Osborn was on sabbatical and the Goblin was there, and that was like, I got chills, like seeing Peter fight him, and that fight when they're like throwing each other through the walls, and like Norman like throws him through like 4 levels of like concrete downward. It reminded me of the fight at the end of the first movie. Like, and I feel like a lot of people said that too, and like I felt that as I was watching it. Like, if you remember that fight at the end of the original Sam Raimi movie between Green Goblin and Spider-Man in that broken down church or whatever it was, that dilapidated place, that it was just brutal, and this felt like that. It's just like you felt every punch, and it was like intense. Like, I honestly love that they brought everyone in the context of the movie, of their movies and in their franchises, but like it felt like it was really honoring all of these characters, you know, like it wasn't poking fun. And when there was like tongue-in-cheek stuff and like little meme references, like it made sense, you know, like this is, as I said briefly earlier, like this is fan service done right. Like when you hear Norman going like, you know, I can help you. I'm something of a scientist myself. Come on. Like that was, it was too, like, I feel like people that even wanted to roll their eyes at the meme, like couldn't deny that was good placement for that line. It's like, that's how you do it. No one was mad at that but it's also crazy to take in that that's like meme culture transcending. Like, do you really realize that? Like, it might be just like a little internet meme, but like the fact that people did that, people made that happen. Like, if it wasn't for internet culture and memes, like, would it even have mattered for him to say that line again? Like, people didn't care like that. But all of a sudden, it's like, in the last few years, you know, there's all these memes for those movies now. It's funny. I said this on one of the last podcasts, like I think maybe even the first one I did, whichever week that was, just the idea that people are now nostalgic for, like, from my era of childhood. It's kind of weird to me because it's like, I don't know if it is that it makes me feel old, but I don't know. But I love that it kind of memes bring new life to movies and things in just ways that no one could predict. Because like, I don't even think like that line wasn't that funny. Like, it was funny, but like the memes that came out of it, and just I'm something of a blank myself, is just it was too perfect. And the delivery of the line in this movie was perfection. It literally sounded exactly like he said it in the original movie. I swear, Willem Dafoe, he's almost like, he reminds me of, I don't even know, I'd say this as a compliment. I don't even know if it is, but he looks the same as he did 20 years ago. It's almost like, I said this about once before, and I know people said this too, about like Steve Martin, who he just always kind of looked like old, like since the 80s. But in that, positive in the sense that it doesn't seem like he aged since then. So like Willem Dafoe, like he's like, what is he, like 60 something now? But he already had that distinct look, and he was like a little wrinkly in the first movie, but like he has that same face. Like he looks the same. Like in a way, like, you know, like it doesn't seem like he aged. Like he's just one of those people. He just has that vitality and that energy and that charisma. I don't know. I just want him to be in everything. Cast Willem Dafoe and everything. If you guys haven't seen Lighthouse, watch that. Yeah, like so guys, I keep dancing around it, but there's that scene with Zendaya and I keep saying Zendaya, but let's just say character names, MJ and Ned, when they're trying to we find out that Ned has that ring that Doctor Strange has, and he's like doing that portal type thing, and he's like, oh, I wish I could find Peter, and then like the little sparks appear, and then he does it again, and they're like, oh, wait, try that again, and then he does the motion, just like Doctor Strange does, and like, first of all, I'm just freaking out at the fact that Ned can, like, suddenly is a magician, or what do you call it, a sorcerer. And I like that, like, it wasn't, like, it didn't click what was happening right in that moment. I'm going to give you a play-by-play. But he's just doing. I'm more like enthralled. Like, wait, what are they doing with this magician thing? Like, I don't know. This is like, it's almost like kind of baiting you one way to make you think about this, and then, you know, the portal opens, and you see an alleyway, and it in that moment, I think I noticed it before. I'm not even trying to like say it like I was quick, but I really thought it as soon as like they asked each other, like, "Is that Peter?" And you see in the alleyway, and it like he looks kind of tall and hunched over, and it looked familiar to me. It looked like a certain Spider-Man to me. And then they're like, "Oh yeah, the Peter," and then it's like even like he kind of bent over, did this little wave, and it looked just like who I thought it was. And then he jumps through the portal, of course. You got the big eyes, and just so much of like a geek I am that like I can actually differentiate. I feel like a lot of people can, but and it was super quick, but I knew right away to how to differentiate the suits. So he jumps through, and I could tell right away it was Andrew Garfield. That I was like, oh my god, like because the thing with Andrew's suit is that he has the wide eyes, and Toby's has like the more narrow, sharp eyes, and he has like the raised web on his suit. Yeah, and it always looked more reflecty on Toby's. So, anyways, like you could just tell by if you watch the movies, you could probably distinguish, even though it's really subtle differences. But as soon as he took off the mask, I was just like, dude, like what? Like I couldn't. My brain literally couldn't compute that I don't know. Like it already happened multiple times in the movie with the other characters, but something about seeing Andrew Garfield's face in this franchise was like it was mind blowing. I think it's because it all stems from, like there was talks back then about him potentially being in it because, the Avengers was happening around that time, 2012 when his first movie came out. And if you remember, there was like this thing back then, like this is like how in tune I was, still am, or like was more about the goings on behind the scenes. But apparently back then, there was like almost a chance that they were going to show Oscorp from Amazing Spider-Man in the skyline of Avengers. So just the fact that like talks like that were being had, and there was always, Spider-Man's like the biggest Marvel character, period. Like he just is. And it was always like that one element that you thought was missing, and people were wondering like, oh, is he going to be in Avengers? And to see another version of him like appear, like the version that people thought was going to be the one to be in the MCU, was like, to see him there was like, it was crazy. And like, like he the thing that I love too is just he acted exactly like the version of him from his movies. So like you could tell that John Watts and like whoever, I don't know who wrote the script, but just they really like nailed the essence of all these characters, just like the villains too. Like they felt, besides Jamie Foxx is the most deviated from his version, and I feel like, I think I saw this online, but I realized it when I read it, that he reminds me of his character in Baby Driver. So if you remember Baby Driver, he kind of like that kind of like cool badass kind of thing, like bad guy, kind of witty remarks and stuff like that. Like he reminds me almost exactly of his character in that movie. But not that it's a bad thing. Like I loved it. But yeah, like it's just smart. Honestly, like I still can't wrap my mind around this, because a few years ago I never would have even thought I would have wanted to see a movie like this. I think Spider-Verse kind of showed that, because like Spider-Verse introduced the idea, like really introduced the idea of like kind of multiple like versions of a character, Spider-Man in particular, because there was that comic thing. I think it was a comic series that was like the whole Spider-Verse thing in Marvel that led to all this. But I think it was inevitable. It's still just trippy that we got Andrew, and then of course in that same scene it's pizza time. And what else? I missed the part where that's my problem, and my back, and That's a nice outfit. Did your husband buy it for you? And you're trash, Brock. And I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye. And okay, I'm just rattling off random memes. Not random, completely not random. Totally relevant because none other than the absolute GOAT, Toby, Bully Maguire, walked through that portal. And when I saw that, I couldn't. Like, I can't stress how I just couldn't compute. Like, it didn't compute. I don't care, like, say it's just a movie and all that and whatever, and, like, I still, and it is just a movie at the end of the day, but it was a big deal to see that. It took me back. And his third movie wasn't the best, and I think it's funny how there's just more apologists for it now, and people that just, like, love the whole his dance scene and all that, and there's just so much wrong with his third movie. Like, for all the apologists of mainly the third, because the first two are genuinely great, of the Raimi movies, people cannot tell me they genuinely loved every aspect of Spider-Man 3. Don't tell me that, okay? I love certain things. You got your Bully Maguires, you got the memes and stuff, but you can't tell me you liked Venom in that movie. No one in their right mind can tell me, and all respect to Topher Grace, loved you as Eric, okay? Like, all respect to that 70s show. But I don't think anyone will disagree that Topher Grace is the biggest miscast possibly in history. And that's maybe, like, one of the more bold statements I've said out loud, but it's true. Like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat that. Like, like, I don't know what they thought with that, or what they were trying to go for with that, because, like, he's not Eddie Brock. Like, he's just not. Like, I don't know what Sam Raimi, like, who, if it was him or whatever, the producers, but between that and then just trying to shove everything in the movies, like, it's kind of what Amazing Spider-Man 2 did also. It's like, so that's why there was this whole thing with, like, people didn't trust Sony. And I think this movie, like No Way Home, the new one, is the smartest thing Sony did, which is what I'm assuming it is that give full creative control, like, to the creative reins to Marvel and, Kevin Feige and all that whole squad, and let them play in this sandbox and, like, use our characters, but make it, here, you can use all the resources we have, make a movie that will make people care about our stuff again, which is, like, when you think about the marketing, it's actually brilliant, because think about what this movie did. It literally retroactively made everyone, whatever kind of Spider-Man fan you were, united everyone, and it made me want to see more of the two other franchises. Like, I want to see more Andrew. I want to see more Toby. I think that Toby, he had his, like, I think Spider-Man 3 is a better ending than Amazing Spider-Man 2. Amazing Spider-Man 2 is not really a final movie. I think he needed one more. And I think I'm starting to see all those hashtags, like, I don't know, it's something like makes Amazing Spider-Man 3 or whatever. Like, something bring, like, yeah. I don't know exactly what the hashtag is, but in general, it's to bring Andrew back. And I honestly think he has it in him, because you could tell that he, like, gave his all. Because between him and Willem Dafoe, like, they were arguably the highlights of the movie for me. Like, Tom and Zendaya, like, obviously great, but Andrew Garfield was always great in the role, but I think it just sucked that, like, his movies weren't great. But he himself, I would actually argue, is the most comic accurate of the three. Like, I think that Andrew is the closest. Like, if there's between the three of them one ripped from the pages of the comics, I think Andrew Garfield is the most, like, accurate in that regard. And this movie, like, only solidified that for me. Like, I think he felt the most like a traditional Peter Parker. And I loved, his whole arc with the Gwen stuff. and like him talking a bit about that, and then you have that scene of, oh, great scene by the way, the whole thing of like the three Spider-Men in the lab, like doing their little science and like having that banter was just, that was great too. It's literally what you would want to hear them talk about. It's like the whole idea of like Toby having the organic web, which is actually a funny thing because like, people around my age that were kids when the Toby movies came out, it made me think that Spider-Man traditionally did have organic web, because it wasn't something like I know I used to watch the 90s show and the 60s show when they were on TV in syndication, but I never really took in that it was that he used web shooters. And it was after it might have been another show or the comics or something that I really realized when I was a little older. And then obviously Andrew's movies tried to be a little more comic accurate in some senses. So the thing is that, like both franchises had their strengths and weaknesses. Obviously nothing's absolutely perfect, and like all of them like mastered certain things. Like I think the big consensus is that Toby is the best Peter. Andrew is like arguably the better Spider-Man, because like the thing is that Toby wasn't as quippy, like he wasn't as like quick with the with the snappy remarks and the humor mid battle and stuff, like with his foes. Like he had a few here and there, but it was not nearly to the extent that you would want it to. And the Toby movies always felt a little more dramatic. But the Andrew movie, like Andrew in general, like his casting as Spider-Man was just like top notch for Spider-Man. But the thing is with his Peter, which is another thing that I think people will say, it's not even that big a deal, but like if there's something I'm going to say, it's that I think his Peter was a little too hipster cool to be the Peter that you would imagine being like bullied. Like I don't imagine that guy really being bullied, like not to the extent that you would think that a guy like Peter Parker should be bullied. Not that I'm saying I wish him to be bullied, but I just didn't buy him be like, he was just already like snarky and everything like right away. So I think that Tom struck a good balance of both in his own way. Like it's not even that he's exactly like both of them. It's like he took the elements that make a geeky kind of, Peter Parker with the smack talk and the loudmouth of Spider-Man. So yeah, but I in general I think that Andrew does deserve another chance, and I think it's, knowing Sony, like I'm not trying to bash, but I'm seeing all these people that are almost like wary now that Sony like is so quick to like, oh, they like that, so let's make a movie for every single one of those characters now. Like I think that a few small appearances could be good, but the only problem I imagine happening, if I'm like trying to think, let's say figuratively they make a third or more Spider-Man movies for Andrew, does it lessen the opportunities for like different types of storylines that you could do both for Tom and Andrew? Like do you lessen the amount of villains that you're able to use because like, I'm going to do this story for one, so I can't tell it anymore in the other one? Because that you can already tell, like, they're not going to redo anything. Like, and I think this movie solidified that. Solidified that. Like, the idea of acknowledging the past versions and not necessarily having to go through the exact same thing. And, from the beginning, this version was very different than the past two. Like, I'd say that all three like are, in their own way very, very different, but all valuable. And that's the thing with Spider-Man. He's such a universal character, and there's so many iterations. Him and Batman are like the ones I think that are just transcendent in terms of popularity. Like they're just gonna always be in demand no matter what. Those IPs will never die. As long as there's a reboot, like there's always gonna be a reboot. And we got that Batman movie coming out, which looks crazy, by the way. I really want to see that. But yeah, in terms of what was it? More stuff in terms of the three-way talks that they had. Like that talk about like how Tom had fought aliens, like, talking about the Thanos stuff, when he's asking, they're all like talking about their experiences, and Toby said about Venom briefly, and then Andrew's all like, "Oh, I wish I fought an alien. You guys fought aliens? I wish I fought an alien." And I think the thing that's funny that I saw online recently too is that kind of like part of the campaigning of having his Amazing Spider-Man 3 is like Andrew needs to fight an alien, like something like that. Like, let him finally fight an alien. And, maybe he will fight an alien. Who knows? Like, I think a big thing that I'm seeing too, which I wouldn't mind. I don't love the movies, but there's, of course, if you saw the post-credits, a connection like with Venom. And I think it could be possible that Venom exists in the world that he exists in. I don't, honestly, we're just lucky. We should just like take a step back. I've done it like pretty recently, even like back at Endgame. Like, I just realized like I'm gonna stop stressing about like thinking what they should do with these movies, and just, what I get, and I'm just gonna appreciate it. Because like, who would have even thought we're at the point of, it's like there's nearly 30 of these movies now. It's like, and then the other thing this movie did is like retroactively made those other Sony, like the original Tom and Andrew movies, kind of canon now. Like, they're basically like, are those MCU movies now? A thing I said, and I forgot if I saw it online, but I did say it out loud on the night that I saw it with my siblings. I was like, it's like the MCM now, which is the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse. So who knows? And there's just so much going on with all that. I'm just gonna see where it goes, because we just had over 10 years of that, and there's no end in sight. So we gotta enjoy what we get, guys. Gotta enjoy what we get. Oh, and not to mention, there was a little Lola scene. I forget if it straight up said that Ned was Filipino before this. There might have been a reference to it, but like straight up, like having his Lola speak Tagalog. That one joke where she's just like going off in Tagalog to Andrew and Toby, I think, who like shot their webs at each other, and then she goes on this long rant, and then Ned is all like, "My Lola's asking if you can clean up the webs." And like, "Oh, sorry, Lola." And then right away she's like, "I'm going to bed." Hey, I made a similar joke, actually, in if you guys remember that one skit with my Lola. Well, the joke about speaking English. You remember that, speaking Tagalog in front of people. What is it? Speaking Tagalog. I don't even remember my own video names. Jeez. When people speak another language in front of you, that one. That's one of my favorites, with my Lola and my mom in it. Yeah, maybe no, I'm not going to say they watched my video, but if it did, like, I was like, oh, that's kind of like the joke I made. And it happened to be Tagalog too. Marvel, I want my slice of the pie for that, Marvel. I want my slice of the pie. I don't know. The thing is too, like, I don't like to definitively say when it comes to these movies, I go, oh, it's my favorite of all of them. Because I like to let it simmer a bit. I'm going to let it sit. But, like, I think when it's all said and done, it'll be in the top 5. Yeah, like, I don't want to say for sure, because I saw it twice, but like, it's still like, there's that thing about when you're in the hype and all the momentum's going, you might be looking through a little bit of beer goggles, but yeah, like, let it simmer a bit and then revisit it in a bit and then see what you actually feel like. Yeah, did I miss anything there? Did I anything major? Oh, I loved hearing the theme also, the music. Like, playing the original theme, the Danny Elfman theme was like a big, like the... I'll probably get copyright if I hum it. But like the Toby theme. We'll call it the Toby theme. And, one last note. One major thing. Okay, this is the thing that I was going to tie back in from earlier, which is that I wish that it didn't show MJ falling at the end of the second trailer for the movie, because it's not even that I'm mad at, like, it's all about marketing that I don't like, because as soon as I saw that, it wasn't me that necessarily thought it right away, but I saw comments that like comments from everyone all across the internet just like saying that like, oh, for sure, like people speculating if that was Andrew's hand that was catching her, or just the idea that Andrew's gonna catch her because it's like it like perfectly so like redeems his arc, and it like brings it full circle. Couldn't catch Emma Stone, so we're gonna catch Zendaya this time, and it'll be a little emotional. But that was so well done. But I'm just a little upset at the fact that they showed that in the trailer, because it's one of those things where you revealed one piece of the puzzle and there's enough kind of fill of the gaps that like people put together what's going to happen. So yeah, that's the thing about movie marketing. It's like they didn't really spoil, but they kind of half did, because like I was expecting it by the time the movie came out. I pretty much accepted. And then it got to the point that I was like, there's no way it's not going to happen. There's no way that Andrew's not going to catch her. And that, in some sense, ruined it for me. Like, not even ruined, but like, it ruined the surprise, because I pretty much assumed it was going to happen. And it's like, like, if you see earlier in the movie that, of course, Aunt May dies, that, like, I highly doubt that the girlfriend was gonna die too in the same movie. There was just too much going on already for her to die, and then still, I don't know, maybe it could have been done well if they killed her also, but I don't think that we wanted to repeat that mistake, and that's the whole point, that Andrew fixed it. But great movie. I don't know how many times I have to say that, but yeah, in general, definitely I want to watch it maybe one more time in theaters, probably over the break. Maybe once the thing is that I mentioned earlier that stuff is like super locked down again in Ontario where I'm at, and I feel like theaters are like probably like half capacity or something, but worth it for the theater. For the theater reaction. It was crazy in the theater too. People were yelling and all that. It was hectic. Oh, and of course I put up that little video if you saw too. I didn't even mention that, but I was seeing, funny enough, just like I think it was like the day before the movie, I think I saw a thumbnail or something, but like I put it out of my mind and I didn't like let it really bother me. Like I just scrolled really quick, but I think I saw, it was either Toby or Andrew like standing in front of a portal, and I was just like, it looked like one of those YouTube meme things where it's like they edit like the Toby memes onto like the MCU, like the Toby in the MCU, if you know that channel. And there's a few of those, but I thought it was something like that, but like it looked like it was recorded in the theater, so I was like, oh, I don't want to see this right now. I hope I'm not gonna think about it, and then I just forgot about it. And then when I saw it in the theater, I was like, oh yeah, that thumbnail I saw was real. And that's pretty much the inspiration for that video. I literally made it. I filmed it actually before seeing it. I think Thursday, or was it Friday? Either whatever day I released it. Whatever day I released it, I knew I released it like midnight that night, because I was just like, I have to put this video out. I don't care, because like people are gonna be talking about this no matter what. It didn't even get any traction anyways, but my thing is I just want to like put it out, because I hate the feeling of like whether or not it gets seen. It's more about, I want to know that I put it out and I didn't see someone else do it first. So at least if there's a video that comes out that gets big after, I could be like, well, look at my post date, like I posted it first. So if you're not first, you're last. But yeah, that was just one of many movies that was great this year. What else did I like this year? I liked Dune, Last Night in Soho, The French Dispatch, Malignant. Oh, I want to see the new Paul Thomas Anderson movie, Licorice Pizza. It looks like return to like the Boogie Nights vibe a little bit, and it looks kind of like his Once Upon a Time in Hollywood type movie. But yeah, I'm excited about that. I think the thing that I find like interesting is the fact that he didn't get like obvious movie star people. Like they seem like really regular, and For any of you that know Paul Thomas Anderson, he's probably modern day most chameleon director in terms of like no two movies of his are alike. In that sense, like kind of like I'd say honestly, if I'm honest, like not in a technical sense, but I'd say that he's maybe the closest to Stanley Kubrick for today. I don't know if that's fighting words for anyone, but arguably Paul Thomas Anderson. Look at the filmography. Look at the filmography. How do you go from Boogie Nights to Magnolia to Punch Drunk Love to There Will Be Blood? It's like like none of those movies like are the same at all. Like there's just some crossover of like maybe like I think the first half of his career has more crossover, and then Punch Drunk Love is like the one-off, like it's the only movie like it in his filmography. And then kind of he starts to go into like period pieces after starting at There Will Be Blood and onward, like fictional period pieces. And yeah, in general, I really want to see this new one. I hope it's one of the best of his. Because, Punch Drunk Love is actually one of my favorite movies, too. Oh, and what else have I been doing? I'm midway, actually, guys, through watching Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and it's not my first time watching it, I'll tell you that. It's basically one of my favorite movies. I love that movie. Since high school, like, I have just been obsessed. Me and my friends, like quote it so much. And it's that like prevalent in my life that I watch it like probably twice a year. Again, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, the 1998 Terry Gilliam movie, Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro, and for a little bit of background, Hunter S. Thompson, the real life journalist, who's known for creating gonzo journalism, which is basically putting the author in the perspective of the main character. So it's like literally, like first person perspective. So he writes it like he wrote the book in the 70s, like semi-autobiographically of him and his attorney, his lawyer, go to they go to Las Vegas in search of the American dream, which is like the broad point. But like his real technical reason is that he's covering this motorcycle like off-roading race, the Mint 400 or whatever. And apparently in real life it was for Sports Illustrated, but in the movie they don't say that in the book. So, and the thing with the book too, so this event really happened to some extent, but he writes it where he has pseudonyms. Is that the right term? Or like he has like character. He gives stage names to everyone, so it's like it's not. He doesn't really say it's him, but we know it's him. And the real thing of this movie is that these guys are just constantly on drugs. So like everything I told you is like the main plot of the movie, and the rest of it is basically them just completely like tripping balls, just completely. Like they go back to back on like every hard drug you can think of. That is just like, so obviously it's going to be and Terry Gilliam too, for those of you that don't know, from Monty Python, and he directed so many of his movies are just like visual masterpieces and just crazy cartoony in IRL like visual filmmaking, like Brazil and stuff. But this movie definitely is a whole experience. And I think, not to say that I've ever indulged in any of those, the silly narcotics or whatnot, what have you, but I've been told from what I see online, that people that have partaken, that it's apparently extremely accurate, the portrayal of the partaking of these activities. But they're honestly, they seem like they nail it. Okay, they nail it. Like they're just so good. Like they're like at any given point, like I love that there's like this thing too, like they're both out of their mind, but they all smartly, like I don't know if it's like just the filmmaking or like perspective to make it like somewhat coherent, not like at any given time one of them is the one that's really off the deep end and the other one is like more like, trying to be in control, and like they're probably equally out of their mind but coherent enough to get a grasp on the situation. And I've watched that movie so many times, and there are just so many quotes. Oh, and funny enough, there was a little cameo for you No Way Home fans out there for that thought that if this was a completely random inclusion on this podcast. It's actually not, because there's a hitchhiker character at the beginning of the movie that when the two are speeding down the highways of Nevada, they stop for none other than a young hippie Tobey Maguire back in 1998. Hot damn, I never rode in a convertible before. That's what he says. And, he clearly grew out his hair. I like to think it's not a wig. And if you look it up, you can see for yourself that, yeah, a great cameo. He has like 2 scenes in the movie. And he is a very integral part to their journey. And the thing with this movie, I can understand why people don't like it, because it's pretty much not structured at all. Like, things happen, like literally just things happen. And imagine things happen, but it's with all the drugs. It's with all the substances that you can think of in the rainbow. But I think, like, I've watched this movie so much that I'm midway through my millionth watch, maybe second this year already, but I'm trying to watch it this time like through the lens of, is this like, I'm trying to actually like piece together the plot and like the dialogue in terms of like how it's pushing the story along, and I'm like trying to pick up on little things that I didn't notice, because I'm just like kind of like usually letting it happen, kind of like what the true experience of the movie is. But I started to get very technical and like try and like see like how much of this story wise like makes sense, and that doesn't really help at all. It definitely, like, there's definitely things that you could pay attention to more in terms of dialogue, and like things that like some plot threads, like the thing with the photographer. If you watch the movie, there is the slightest recurring storylines and plot threads that go on. But this movie I would not recommend it if you're looking for a coherent experience. It's definitely an experience, but it's a certain type of experience. And yeah, I love that movie. And that actually is the movie that put me on to Benicio del Toro. And apparently, funny enough, I read this, I don't know, it's the internet. What's true, what's not true. But I read that he was actually turned down, like, he was turned down for future roles because of his inclusion in this movie, which is all the more reason for you to watch it. Like, honestly, if that should be the selling point, this movie made it so that Benicio del Toro doesn't get any more roles. Like, at least for a while, but, he had to come back, and he's like, he's a serious actor. But when you watch, like, where he goes in this movie, especially in relation to the bathtub, he goes deep. They both go deep. Yeah. Him and Johnny Depp, they go hard in this movie. Maybe the hardest that they've gone in their careers even till this day. So I say it's definitely an at least bucket list. Like, watch that movie if you haven't. But I feel that, it's kind of like a cult classic. For sure I feel like a lot of people that even like watch my channel would like know about that. And you could probably see the inspiration that movie has on like some of my humor, like in the weird sense. Like, it definitely, there's one bit that I'll say, it's not even like, you can't even spoil this movie because it doesn't make sense. So like, I'll just say there's one bit where the photographer comes in after Johnny Depp is tripping on a certain psychedelic, and he's kind of trying to like, and at this point Benicio's character, Dr. Gonzo, is like the very straight. He's like the straight one. He's trying to say that he's like that, Johnny Depp's character needs to chill out, and he's like all freaking out in the lobby of the hotel. So they're back in their room, and he's like trying to talk sense into him, And the photographer, who's supposed to be the photographer for, because Johnny Depp's character is the journalist for this race, he comes in and he's like, Johnny Depp's tripping out just looking at this guy. And at this point, Benicio del Toro just seems pretty regular, and he sits at his table. And the photographer is trying to talk to Johnny Depp, and he's rattling off all the types of bikes that are coming in, like DMZ and Kawasaki's. And it's like, Johnny Depp's like tripping out looking at him like he's like some kind of, all of a sudden, as he's rattling off the names, it just starts to sound like some kind of war, like some person in the middle. I don't know why it looked like he was like in Vietnam or something. I think that's what it was going for. But he's like suddenly having like PTSD for no reason. But it's hilarious. Just like, I think that bit like really just showed the whole experience of like how words, when someone's under the influence, just like are so amplified. It's hilarious. But like, anyways, like there's that bit. And then it cuts back to like reality, and he's just talking normally. And then that photographer guy, the same one, he turns around. And this is the part that like I die at, is that Benicio del Toro is all of a sudden just like sitting there, and he has his shades on, just completely straight face. Like he just has his shades on all of a sudden, completely just straight face. And then the photographer's about to leave the apartment, and then, or not the apartment, the hotel room, and he passes by Benicio's character. Benicio doesn't even look at him, straight face, black shades, black as night, and he's just looking straight, and he's just like, we know what you're up to, man. Oh, I can't like stress how hilarious that is. Like the idea that this guy, he was the straight guy the whole scene, and he has no reason to even think that this guy's suspicious. And the guy's just trying to be nice, like trying to amp up. Oh, we got this race tomorrow to cover. And he's talking about all the motorcycles, just to, have nice small talk. And then all of a sudden, Benicio del Toro's character is just like super paranoid for no reason, but like aggressively paranoid. I love when like there's that switch of like, you think someone's like in control and they're totally like, in their right mind and not twisted on substances. And then it just takes a split second, and it's completely 180. That's one thing about this movie. It's all over the place, but I love it. It's a ride. Jeez, guys, we went a bit over. I think I spent like 45 minutes talking about just Spider-Man. Hopefully it wasn't too incoherent, and I got to some points. I know I was kind of bouncing around there, but I just wanted to get that out there. I just wanted to talk about that a bit. And jeez, I don't know, man. Like I got a lot of work to do still in the next few days, and I'm up a little late, so I might have to call this one quits. Happy Christmas, as they say in Harry Potter. Happy Christmas and a Happy New Year, guys, and a Merry New Year. I hope that you stay safe, healthy, have a lot of fun, binge a lot of movies, on your break. Watch Fear and Loathing. If you haven't seen it, it's the perfect holiday movie. I can attest to that because I just said it. But guys, it's always a pleasure talking to you. And by you, I'm talking about my personal notes, because this is not going to see the light of day. And I don't know if I said any incriminating things on this podcast, but good. That's why it's not going live, and I'm just going to leave this on my hard drive. So, guys, I really hope that you have a good one. I'm just rambling at this point. I just talk for the sake of talking. You guys know that by now. But I'm probably going to put this out before I have another skit. So, watch out for that too. But I hope you guys have a good one. All right? Stay safe, stay beautiful, stay chill, stay whatever it is that you want to stay. But stay doing it. Stay doing it.